You are about to watch the legendary story of the Odyssey, one of the greatest epic adventures in history, and the unforgettable journey of Odysseus, the king of Ithaca. Having barely escaped the blinding rage of the Cyclops, Odysseus and his men now drifted across an endless sea, burdened by the heavy weight of Poseidon's curse. Days bled into weeks with no sight of land. Every sunrise brought the crew closer to the limits of human endurance, as hope began to vanish into the horizon. Survival now rested on a knife's edge. Without a miracle or a safe haven, the combined toll of physical exhaustion and divine wrath was certain to destroy them. Relief finally appeared in the form of a floating island, the home of Aeolus, the keeper of the winds. In a journey defined by brutality, the crew found an unexpected sanctuary in Aeolus's kindness. Taking pity on the weary king, Aeolus reached into the sky and trapped every wild, ship-destroying wind inside a heavy leather bag. He left only the gentle west wind free to breathe into their sails and lead them straight to Ithaca. But the gift came with a single, absolute condition: the bag must never be opened. For the first time in 10 years, the path home was clear. Their salvation was guaranteed, provided they could follow this one divine rule. For 9 straight days and nights, the plan worked perfectly. The ships cut through the water with ease, drawing closer to the finish line. But Odysseus refused to share the burden of their success. Fearful of any mistake, he stood at the helm without sleep, guarding the leather bag with a paranoid intensity that excluded his own crew. On the 10th day, the rugged mountains of Ithaca finally rose from the mist, close enough to see the fires burning on the shore. After 20 long years, the grueling journey was almost over. Believing the goal was won, Odysseus finally let his guard down. The weight of 9 sleepless days collapsed upon him, and he fell into a deep slumber. This total reliance on individual endurance left the fleet vulnerable. By refusing to trust his men during the journey, Odysseus had left no one to guard the gift while he slept. The moment the king's eyes closed, the atmosphere on the deck shifted. Relief at seeing home was instantly replaced by a sharp, biting suspicion. The sailors whispered among themselves, convinced that the mysterious bag was filled with gold and silver that Odysseus intended to keep for himself. Greed soon smothered their sense of duty. Driven by the need for their share of the perceived treasure, the crew moved in silence to untie the leather bag. The divine winds burst forth with a terrifying, explosive force, tearing through the rigging and shattering the calm of the afternoon. A sudden hurricane struck the fleet, spinning the ships away from the coast. As Odysseus woke in horror, he watched the mountains of his home disappear back into the churning sea. Internal suspicion and a single moment of greed had dismantled their salvation, pulling the ships back into the abyss just as they reached the shore. When the storm finally exhausted itself, the fleet found itself back where it started, at the floating island of Aeolus. The crew stood on the deck in broken silence, finally realizing the magnitude of the catastrophe they had brought upon themselves. Odysseus returned to the palace of the Windkeeper, offering a desperate and humiliating plea for a second chance to reach his family. But Aeolus met him with a cold, logical refusal. He saw that a crew capable of sabotaging their own rescue was clearly marked by a divine curse, and he would not oppose the will of the gods to help them again. The tragedy was complete. Even the most powerful divine intervention cannot save those who are determined to sabotage their own survival. Cast back into the open sea with no safe path home, the crew sailed toward a dark, mysterious land where giant cannibals waited in silence. Their greatest nightmare was only beginning. To be continued in Part 6. Next part, the land of the Laestrygonians and Circe. Monsters, magic, and the greatest test yet. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to History Stories Dose so you never miss the next chapter of history.